Welcome, everyone, to the Profitable Regeneration webinar series and the Profitable Steward Podcast. My name is Jared Sorensen. It's a privilege to welcome you here. This session is going to be pre-recorded. Normally, we meet and do webinars on the second and fourth Thursdays at 4 o'clock. This week, this second Thursday of the month in June, I'm actually committed to be at a youth camp. So this is going to be pre-recorded, but I'll do my best to share valuable content, information, inspiration, and help you on your regenerative journey. The title of this class, and I'm going to be the one presenting here today. I was asked recently to present at a homeschool conference. And even though we were super busy with spring work and lots of things to do, I felt like it was very much in alignment with my goals and values and mission. And so I accepted that. And the topic that I spoke on there was stewardship and statesmanship. So as we begin here, think about the question. Are you concerned about, do you want to promote freedom? And do you believe that there's a connection between freedom and the food we eat and the land we steward? Well, I do. I'm passionate about freedom. Freedom is one of my 5 core values. It's something that I live for, something that I would die for, something that I teach about, something that my book has written about. And I'm also extremely passionate about stewardship and statesmanship. And what is the connection between these as well as agriculture, right? Because that's who this is for. Whether you're listening and you own no acres, you're just leasing, maybe you're homeless, or maybe you own thousands of acres or steward 1 million acres plus, it doesn't really matter, in the sense that we are all stewards, and the message here is going to be applicable for anyone, targeted for the people who are in agriculture. But I hope that those of you who maybe you don't farm or ranch, maybe you're vegan, it doesn't matter. Stay tuned in, listen, and learn and share what you learn. Okay, so let's start off here. Those of you who are watching, this is published on YouTube, the Profitable Steward, and it's on the podcast channel on my YouTube channel, so you can find it there. And the slides will be shared there. So if you're just listening on a podcast, if you want to go to YouTube, you can watch, you can see the slides. And so we're just going to go ahead and go through the slide deck here and share some of the things that we have. So this is our ranch, picture of it, northeastern Nevada. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But first of all, there's some myths here that I want to debunk, that I want to break, because they're not serving us. First of all, the stigma, the myth that if you're going to be in agriculture, it's because you don't have an education and you don't know what else to do with your life. That is absolutely not true. Maybe it's been true in the past. For whatever reason, we've come to believe that. And I want to break that myth, because really agriculture, while it's not rocket science, no, it's a lot harder actually, because we're dealing with so much complexity here in the environment, with animals, with livestock, with things that are ever changing, weather. It is truly complex. And yes, it does take an education. It takes experience. Myth number 2 is that you're going to go broke. If you decide to be a farmer or rancher, you're going to go broke. And while many farms and ranches are subsidized, either direct government payments or not paying yourself, I believe that ranching should be profitable. Farming also can be, year in and year out. And how do we do that? And myth number 3 is that we, meaning the population of the U.S. populace, do need to be concerned about where our food comes from, because there will always be enough, right? Well, maybe not. We do live in a time of abundance, but we realize that the food systems are very fragile, that they're susceptible to disruption, and maybe we can't rely on them. So what do we do to create a resilient food system for ourselves, our family, and hopefully for our immediate community, and stretch beyond there? Okay, so stewardship. What is it? Why does it matter? Well, let me talk a little bit about my family first. So my wife and I have been married for 27 years. We're the parents of 9 children, 1.5 grandchild, and we are just very blessed to live where we do. We've adopted the cowboy tradition and do a lot that we do on horseback, but we are very modern in that we also use technology. We use ATVs electric fence, and we're rooted in the past, but we also look for the ways that we can streamline our operation, ways that fit our values. And this is our location. If you just look at the northeast corner of Nevada, our ranch name is Secret Pass Ranch, and we manage 2 different locations on either side of the mountain range, close to 14,000 total acres, leasing several thousand additional acres. And we're very much grass-based, custom graze in the summer, and generally destock in the winter. We're at a higher elevation. And so that's a little bit about who we are. I am a 3rd generation. We're raising the 4th generation, and we want it to be perpetuated into the future, our business to be perpetuated. And what do we need to do that? So as always, I always leave this invitation to everyone who listens, who watches live, and all of this is going to be recorded. So pause the recording here and let's set some intentions. What are the intentions that you have for being here today? Right? So go ahead and pause when you have at least 1, ideally 3 intentions written down. You can resume the recording. Awesome. Very good. So thank you for doing that. I'm grateful that you're present here, and I encourage you to participate at 100% level. Even if you're driving in your tractor, riding on your horse, those are some of the places that I listen to podcasts. Focus, and ideally take some notes. If you need to, come back and revisit this at a time when you are able to focus. I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful for the technology that allows us to be here. I'm grateful for my family who supports me, and I'm sure you're a family who supports you in what we do. My intention today is that we talk about principles of truth around those core values of stewardship and statesmanship, and why they're important to us today, what we can do to promote them, how we can become better stewards and better statesmen, and ultimately more profitable in our businesses, more engaged as fathers, mothers, and in our families. So I started my regenerative journey several years ago, attended the Ranching for Profit School 20 years ago, and began on a journey of studying about holistic management, about managing grass, managing livestock, selecting livestock that's adaptable to our environment, transition to looking into not only what's above the soil, but what's beneath. And it's been quite a journey. Along the way, I learned many things the hard way. I had some great mentors, my dad, my grandpa, Bud Williams, and others who directly and indirectly mentored me through their writings and through their words. Then the one thing that I've learned along that journey is that education is essential. And that's one of the principles we'll talk about. It is essential to progress. It's like if we're not learning, we're truly not living. But how do we know if what we are learning is true? How do we know if it fits for what we're going to do? And so that's where I'm grateful that I have been blessed to be around some wonderful people who have given me guidance, who I've been able to look to for examples, and really to rely upon my Creator to learn what is true and what is right and what works for me. Do we have it all figured out? By all means, no. And along the way, we've made some very costly mistakes. I went through a time when I experienced situational depression. And at the deepest, darkest point in that, I questioned my will to live and my value for being here on the earth, and wondered if it might be better if I were not here. Now, whether you can relate to that or not, that's a deep, dark place to be. And I had some help to be able to get out of that and realize that, no, truly, I do have value here. And the work that I am called to do is extremely important. And I know the work that you are called to do is also. So if you're questioning those things, just trust that you're here for a reason. Even right here on listening on this podcast, watching this video, it's for a reason. And there's some things here that you can learn. So that's a little bit about myself. And we're going to jump right in. So we've set our intentions and we're looking forward and we're going to go. So there's 3 keys that I'm going to talk about to stewardship, break down to 3 important principles that I believe are key. But let's define what is stewardship. First of all, I don't know the dictionary definition really, but I look at it more from a biblical perspective, in that the profitable steward from the Gospels in the Bible, when the owner was leaving, he left his employees in charge, and he gave them certain talents, 110, 15, 1, I believe. So the number doesn't matter, but the one that was given, or the first two, they multiplied, they doubled what they'd been given. They came back, they gave an accounting, and they were told, well done. The one who was given 1, he hit it in the ground. He said, I didn't want to lose it. And so here it is. I didn't lose it. I'm so grateful that I didn't lose it. And he was cast out, and he says, you're unprofitable steward. You did not increase upon what you were given. So that's my definition of stewardship, is to increase upon what we have been given, to be able to help it to grow, and to return and report and give an accounting upon what we've been given. And we don't have to wait till we die to do that. I believe we can do that daily, weekly, and just periodically, just check in with our Creator, just like we would with an employer, somebody who has given us charge or stewardship over something here earthly. We can do that with God. So that is stewardship. Why is that so important? Well, we're going to talk about that. But first of all, what are the keys to stewardship? Number 1 is to get an education. So good job, you're doing that. You're here. You're on this class, and you're looking for wisdom, insights, education. How do we get an education? I really like to listen and learn from nature. That's bullet point number 1. So we live on farms and ranches, but are we connected to the earth? When we're out and about, this might seem, contradictory. Like, do we have our earbuds in and earphones on or radio on? Maybe you're listening to good things, but sometimes we need to unplug. It's wonderful to live on many of the Western ranches, because a lot of our ranch does not have cell phone service. So we kind of are forced to unplug for much of the day. So do that. Listen, learn from nature. And I really like this quote. If you're a Bible reader, hopefully you've come across this at some point. If not, I'm going to share this with you here. Job 12:7-10. So in the Old Testament, Job chapter 12, verses 7-10. Verse 7, but ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee. Or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth not all these, that the hand of the Lord hath wrought this? In whose hand is the soul of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind? So how do we learn from nature? We pause, we get out in nature, we listen, we unplug from technology. Sometimes it's good to just go instead of do, just go and be, and ask those questions. And it's the promise. Speak to the earth, it shall teach thee, and the fishes shall declare it unto you. The grass, the trees, they have the answers. How do they speak to us? Well, I've never heard an audible voice, but I have felt things in my heart. And certainly when you're out in nature, you feel a sense of peace, which sometimes is hard to feel when you're so connected and involved with the things that are digitally based, worldly based, and things like that. So connect with nature, number 1. And number 2, attend classes. You're here. There's no reason to not get an education. But again, how do we filter through all of the stuff that's out there on YouTube, the internet, the online classes, all those things? I think it's to really get clear on why you're learning, on what is your purpose, and then you'll be guided as to what you need to learn. And as promised, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. So at Ag Steward, that's one of our missions and goals, is to be able to empower the family-owned farms and ranches with education so that they can be highly profitable year in and year out, regenerate the land that they steward, provide abundantly for their families, and pass on viable businesses to the next generation through solid legacy plans. And that's part of our mission statement. That is our mission statement. That's why we created Ag Steward. So it starts with getting an education. And then if you're new to agriculture, specifically regenerative agriculture, go and get some work experience. Find a place that's doing what you want to do. And even if you're a veteran, like I am not the guru of cover crops. So I like to go and visit places that have things figured out that I don't. Ecology, I love ecology, but again, I am not the know-all when it comes to ecology. Not that any of us know it all, but there's a lot that I don't know. So I lean upon my mentors and colleagues to be able to go and learn from them. Internships are great ways to be able to do that. We offer internships on our ranch to be able to learn the practical skills. If you've got the work ethic, we can work with you. We can't teach that, but we can teach the skills and the principles behind stewardship and land regeneration. Okay, very good. So that was principle number 1, and that's to get an education. Number 2 is have a plan. First of all, whenever anybody comes to me and they says, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be a rancher, I want to have a profitable business, I want to start direct marketing, I'll ask why. Why is that? What is your vision? Because as it says in Proverbs, without vision, the people perish. And so under having a plan, first bullet point, start with why. Have that vision, create that vision. The second bullet point is to seek out a mentor. Again, somebody that's doing it successfully, that you can go and learn from, who might challenge your paradigms, who can help you identify those blind spots that you may not be aware of, so that you can accelerate your learning. And that's the whole purpose of a mentor. Like, we can figure it out, but we don't have 10 lifetimes to figure it out in. So that's why we leverage the knowledge and experience and expertise and gifts of others, because, that's how a true economy works, is we do what we do best and we share what we know with those who need our help. And we also gain from those that we need help from. Okay. And then the last point in this and having a plan is just get started. Like, we can study it to death, but you can't learn to ride a horse from the ground. At some point you're going to get on, you might get bucked off, but you've got to get on. You've got to take that first step. And so just get started. I know it can take a lot of faith, especially if you're trying something new, but the more that we get educated, the more hope we have, the more understanding we have, the more faith that we have that it's going to work. I know they say ignorance is bliss. Well, it is until you get hurt, till you hurt somebody else, till you fail really hard. And sometimes you've dug a hole so deep that it's really hard to get out of. Those life lessons are great to learn, but they don't always have to be that expensive or painful. So if we look at this in the order in which they come, start with why, getting really clear. When you have that conviction of why, the how comes easier. Seek out a mentor and then just commit and get started. And the help will come as we do that. And I've seen that in my own life. I've seen it for those that I've mentored and coached. And sometimes the best thing that I can do for them is just question in a loving way, like, is this really what you want to do? Superficially, they may want to, but deep inside, there's got to be a reason why. There's an emotional need, even at a mission level, there's a spiritual need to do what we are going to do. And if you can tap into that deep and abiding why, that's going to help you through the uncertainty and the rough times and the questioning and the doubts and fears of yourself and others. So one time when I started on this of becoming an educator, I've known for probably a decade and a half that this was part of my life mission, that this was something that I wanted to do. And it wasn't so much that it was for self-gratification reasons or monetary reasons. It was just a deep, abiding need inside of me that needed to be fulfilled. It was something that wanted to come to light and wanted to come to the surface. And as I began to share that, hey, I feel this call, and I didn't call it that. I just said, hey, I'm going to be a mentor. And some well-meaning people questioned me. They weren't necessarily in a mentor role, and I wasn't necessarily asking them for help, but nonetheless, it did serve me. And they said, are you sure you can provide for your family if you do that? What's going to happen to the ranch if you do that? Can you really make money doing that? Are people really going to come and listen to you? And I began to, get tap into that deeper burning in the belly, or fire in the belly, I guess is what they call it. Like, oh, this is really what I want to do, because I had to defend it. But also it planted some seeds of doubt, like, really, can I do this? Will it work? And so, in the early second decade of 2000s, so 2011, 2012, we started out and started teaching classes online and a little bit in person, but I wasn't super clear on what my message was. I didn't know who my people were. And I had these doubts festering in the back of my mind. And so ultimately, I don't know if it was premature, but ultimately we paused that and we went back to managing the ranch full time. But that mission that I had inside of me didn't go away. I continued my education. And you look at all that I learned in that decade about soil health, leadership, and statesmanship, it's like that was necessary. So don't quit. And even if you have quit, if that calling inside of you is still burning inside of there, maybe it's been snuffed out a little bit, rekindle it and see if now is the right time. Is now the right time? And what help do you need? And if we can help on that journey, it would be a privilege and it would be an honor, because that's what we do. We help people to identify what their missions are, the impact that they can have in this world, and to be able to engage in it. And specifically in the regen ag space. But even if you grew up farming and ranching and you feel the calling to go do something else, sometimes that can be even more scary, because we're stepping out into the real unknown. And even with that, while I may not be an expert when it comes to other fields, I feel like my expertise does lie in understanding human nature and being able to help overcome those barriers and boundaries that we set for ourselves, which a lot of times are just false or not really real. Okay, so we've talked about number one. I got to look back at my notes because hopefully you're taking notes here too. All right. So what was number one? It was get an education, right? Get educated. These kind of all run together. Number two is have a plan. And move on to number three. Your stewardship increase as your capacity to steward increases. So if you think about this on a teeter-totter, so in a playground, right, we've got kids of different weights, and if they're finding balance, they're going to have to either move somewhere closer to or further from that fulcrum point to bring in balance, or they'll have to have somebody else on the other side. So if you think about teeter-totter, us as the steward on one side and our stewardships on the other side, they are going to seek for balance, and they will come into balance. So if we want to increase our stewardships, the world would say, the maybe tradition would say, okay, let's go lease some more land, right? Because if we're not profitable with 100 cows, maybe we can be profitable with 1,000 cows. So we just have to have more. Let's go grow more grass. Let's increase our production. Let's put in more inputs to get more output. Strategically done, that could be true. That could be right. But what I'm going to challenge you is that the way to increase our stewardships is to increase our capacity to steward. So we increase our own capacity, and our stewardships will come into balance. Okay, on that teeter-totter analogy there. And so how do we do that? First of all, understand that stewardship trumps ownership. Okay, we don't have to own it to be a steward of it. In fact, sometimes the best stewards don't have the burden, and I hate to use that word burden because it's a privilege to be an owner, but it also takes some responsibility. So maybe he who stewards can steward better if he doesn't own. I've leased places, and I have felt that stewardship just as weighty on a leased place as I do on my own place. And that's not true for everybody, because I've also seen leased ranches that have been trashed. And so that kind of gets a bad rap. don't lease a place or it's just going to fall apart and it's going to get destroyed. But again, what is the capacity of that steward, right? Because if you do a good job leasing, how many other people are going to come to you and say, hey, you're doing a good job. Would you consider leasing my place even at under market value? And we know those stories are out there, right? Because it's not so much about just the dollars. For some people, it's about what is happening on the land. So stewardship trumps ownership. Bullet point number 2, how to increase our capacity to steward, is to work on yourself daily. And how do we do that? What do we mean work on ourselves? That's a weird term, right? Like we can work on the land, but work on ourselves. Yeah, that's just as important. It's just as important as fixing fence, irrigating, seeding, harvesting, whatever those things that we do on the land. In fact, it's even more important because when we die, those things are going to stay here. And I believe what we learn and what we gain in the relationships that we have, those things are eternal. We're going to take those things with us. So this is the most important work that we can do. And what does that look like? So when we work on ourselves daily, first thing I have is to take out the trash and make room for creation. It's said that we have some 60,000 thoughts a day, independent, random thoughts going through our mind. I have no idea how they calculate that, but I'm sure it's true because, we're kind of like squirrels. There's something here, something there. We're trying to focus and we've got our minds going everywhere. So 60,000 thoughts. I don't know if that includes the time when we're sleeping or not, but anyway, 40,000 of those statistics say are negative. So 2/3 are negative. So we are weighted on the negative side by default. So how do we counteract that? Well, we identify what those negative thoughts are. How do we do that? Sometimes I'll carry around a notebook and I'll have a thought and I'll write it down and I'll look at it and say, this isn't for me. A common thought for me is you're not good enough. You don't know what you're doing. When I try to do something new, you don't know how to do that. You're going to fail. Sometimes other people will tell us those things too, and we can just smile and say, thank you. I choose not to believe it, but thank you. So that's how we take out the trash. We identify what those negative voices that we hear, or thoughts that we think, or feelings that we feel when we just feel worthless, not good enough, or question our own ability. Generally, those aren't from a loving creator. Those are from a different source, an adversarial source. So call them out for what they are. Write them down. When I mentor people, we walk through some of the steps, and I'll just share a couple of them here because I think they're important. I want to whet your appetite and give you an idea of what is available and what is out there. Because truly, if left to our own devices, we're relying on sheer grit and willpower to get us through that negativity. And that can happen, right? And I'm not saying that you're a bad person because you have negative thoughts. It's just the world that we live in. We live in a fallen world. And so things are degenerative by nature, and ourselves included. So that is how it's going to be. How do we work within that? Identify them, write them down. And the tool that I use is oftentimes I'll shred that paper, I'll burn that paper, I'll flush it down the toilet. I'm sending a message to my subconscious mind that this is not part of me. Okay, so that's taking out the trash. Another thing that I do, if you guys were on the summit at the beginning of the year, you got to meet Tyler Watson. He talks about a tapping and aligning technique. And as weird and wacky as that sound, and as vulnerable as it is to be able to share that with you, I'm going to go ahead and share one version of that with you today because I want you to be able to release the negative thoughts, release the negative emotions, hit a reset button, just like we would if a motor overheated, right? We let it cool down, we hit the reset button and it starts up and it runs better, providing that we fix the problem. And that's what we're doing. We're fixing the problem. We're hitting the reset button here. So it goes like this. You identify where in your body you're feeling that resistance or that emotion. Maybe it's in your belly, maybe it's in your chest, maybe it's in your shoulder, and your body is just a big recording device and it's going to send you messages. It's going to help you, and its goal and purpose is to serve you. And so if we ask the question, why, if I were mentoring somebody right now, I'd ask them the question, what is your big goal? Well, my big goal is direct market. Well, what steps have you taken to do that so far? Well, I've got a website up, we've got an email campaign running, but I just don't feel like we're getting any traction. And why aren't you getting any traction? Well, because it probably just don't dedicate enough time to it. And again, just asking questions. So what is preventing you from dedicating the time that you need to your direct marketing company? Well, I just have so much already on my plate. I have so much that I'm carrying already. So you're carrying a lot already, and you don't know how you're going to do something else. Yeah, it's just like I don't have the capacity to do anything else. So here I'm dialoguing here. This is very much an unscripted, but very much real, based on the conversations I've had with others. So I'm using their language. I'm repeating back, and you can mentor yourself in this way also. And I can help you if you get stuck. But so you're carrying this, and then I would listen to that language. You're carrying that. You're thinking like, I'm carrying this. And I might ask, well, how heavy is that thing that you're carrying? And it might be, oh, it's like a 6-year-old bull. Really? So like 3,000 pounds? Yeah, 1.5 tons easily. And how long have you been carrying that? Well, I don't know, maybe 15 years. Really? And how does that make you feel? Man, like I can't even get out of bed in the morning. It's just like I can't even breathe sometimes because this burden is so real. And so notice we're helping them to create something real and tangible out of something that was just etherical before. And you might think, well, that's not really true. They're not really carrying around a 3,000 pound bull, but you feel like it, right? You feel like it, and your body's screaming at you like, help me. But we're just like default. Let's just go work hard. And I'm not saying you don't work hard, but man, if you can get that bull off your back, how much more effective are you going to be? Okay, so continuing on with the questions, I would ask that person, where in your body do you feel that? Well, man, my shoulders, I just feel it in my shoulders. Yeah, so I'd ask them to tune in to their shoulders and say, at that 3,000 pound weight that you're carrying around, what color is it? Well, it's black, dark black. Does it have a shape? It's just like this big blob. So this big black blob that you're carrying around, that's 3,000 pounds. Yeah. And it's in your shoulders. Yeah. You've been carrying it for 15 years. Yeah. Are you ready to get rid of it? I don't know. Can I? Yeah, I guess I am. Okay. So we've identified some of the things of the characteristics of what this burden is that they're carrying, where it is in their body that they're carrying it, what it looks like, what the shape is. Maybe it has a smell. Maybe it has a texture. And then you just ask, well, what does it want? What does it want? And some people they'll resist this. And I'm sure as you're listening to this, you're either like, man, this guy's wacko, I got to turn this off. Or maybe you're playing along with it and you're asking these questions. And if you're not, consciously, you're going to fight against this. Maybe. I don't want to set that out there, but just be open to it. Ask yourself, where is my resistance? Where am I carrying it? What does it look like? How long has it been carrying it? What shape is it? How heavy is it? Okay. And I don't know if I can make guarantees, 100% guarantees, but so far, 100% of the people that I've walked through this, they've been able to identify something. Right. And it's just a simple little question of asking questions. The next step would be, okay, ask it what it wants. What does it want? It wants relief. It wants freedom. Okay, it wants relief and freedom. Repeating back their words, relief and freedom. And if relief and freedom had a color, what would that be? Oh, they might say, that would probably be like a bright yellow. Okay, so it's bright yellow. So I want you to just imagine in your mind now that black blob that's carrying you in your shoulders. I want you to give it all the yellow, this freedom and relief that's this yellow color. Okay, very good. So they do that. And they're like, okay, they might be shaking their head and thinking like, what's this guy doing? Why is he going here? And then I'll ask them, okay, so rate that. So now that you've given that, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 meaning like you're completely debilitating, 10 meaning like you're on top of the world, and you've got this and you've got it handled and you don't even have to think about it anymore. Where are you at? I'd probably be at a 6. Do you want to be at a 10? Yeah. Okay, good. So you've identified, okay, you're not where you want to be. Here's the thing that's holding you back. Here's some steps to be able to go through to do it. And you've identified what it is, what it wants. You might ask, does it have a message for you? And they'll think for a minute. It's like, yeah. What is that message? Well, it's to stop procrastinating. Like, there are things that I know I need to do, and I just need to do those things. Okay, so what are 2 things that you need to do? Oh, I need to get my Facebook ads running. Like, yeah, it's kind of been just sitting there. I know what to do, but I haven't done it. And you go down and ask more questions there. But okay, so that's number 1, get your Facebook ads running. When are you going to do it by? It'd only take me a minute to do it. Do you want to do it now? Well, how about if I do it by the morning? And I'm like, okay, that's good. So in the morning, you're going to report back and you'll have those ads running. Yes. What's another thing? Be like, well, my wife's asked me to haul some manure to the garden and I just haven't gotten it done. It's really stressing her out. It's like late in the planting season, been getting lots of rain. I'm super busy. Like, okay, so can you delegate it to somebody? Well, no, I really can't, because last time I did that, they ran over the hydrant and, it just created more work for me. So it only take me like 20 minutes to go do it, but I got to put the bucket on the tractor. And so I'm just kind of listening into what they're saying, letting them work it through and kind of fight their head. And then they come around and like, but I've got time this afternoon. I'll get that done today too. Okay. So 2 things that their body was telling them, just get it done so that they don't have to carry that around. And then even right then, you might say, well, re-rate that. So you committed to do these 2 things. How do you feel now? Well, probably at a 7. Do you want to be at a 10? Yeah. So what it's going to take? I don't know. Well, can I share with you something that I've done that's helped me to be able to get to a 10? And I'm going to go ahead and stop share for a minute here, so you can see something that I've done that's helped me and helped my clients to be able to break through some of these physical blocks and emotional barriers. And it takes a high level of trust because it's a little bit vulnerable, but most people say yes. If not, I'm not attached to the outcome. And I'll be like, okay, when you're ready, I've got some tools and some things that I'll help you with. If they say yes, then we'll say, okay. So you've identified that you've got this weight. And what would we call that? Just call it, well, it's just kind of I'll just call it a burden. Okay. So we got this burden. Okay. So our body will respond when we give it attention. We've seen that already. So one way to be able to give it attention is to cause slight trauma. And it'll send energy and it'll send healing to that area. And so there's certain meridian points, key points on our body that we can tap on without getting super deep here. If we do this, it sends healing, light, energy, and it's kind of like hitting that reset button. Are you okay if we do that? Sure. Okay. So here's how it goes. When we just start and we vocalize, start tapping on our chest and we say, okay, even though I feel this burden and I've felt it for 15 years, have them repeat back, I still completely love, accept, and forgive myself. And I'm okay with who I am. So that's the statement that we're getting out. And then we'll go through and it's kind of like a question mark, tap on the side of your head. And we're going to state the negative. We're going to go to the extreme because our subconscious will go to the extreme. And if we go there, then it's like, well, I don't have to go there because I lived through it. So let me live in the present instead of worrying about the past or trying to be anxious about the future. Okay, so then we go to the negative. I've been carrying this weight for 15 years and it's going to kill me. I don't know what to do. Nobody trusts me. I really can't do this. So see the points that I'm tapping on, talk you through this. Temple, forehead, below the eye, below the nose. And what you're doing is you're taking your index and middle finger or your 3 fingers and you're just tapping 4 or 5 times as you're on that specific point in your body. Again, watch the YouTube video to be able to see how silly it looks. And it's okay, don't laugh because it works. So as you're doing that, temple 4 or 5 times, forehead 4 or 5 times, doesn't matter how many times, you're just bringing attention to that under your eye, under your nose, on your chin. And while you're vocalizing the extreme, I guess I'm just going to have to carry this burden for the rest of my life under your armpit. I'm never going to get rid of this. And then back to your chest. But I still completely love, accept, and forgive myself. I forgive others. And I forgive myself for holding on to this for so long. Okay, then you re-rate and you ask, okay, where are you at now? Sometimes it will go backwards, it will go down. Sometimes it'll go up. Usually it goes up because our body wants to heal, it wants to work with us. Regardless, you just check in and you say, okay, it's at an 8. Do you want to be at a 10? Yeah. What's it going to take to be at a 10? I don't know. Should we do another round? You can go through, you can repeat it. Sometimes that it will shift, it'll move places in our body. I'll say, where in your body do you feel it now? Well, it's kind of in my gut, or maybe I just really feel it in my jaw, whatever it is, right? Our body is just saying, okay, I've stored this memory here of something that's happened to me, maybe a past trauma, and I want to heal from it. You bring attention to it. That attention helps it to be able to heal. You work through, you tap it, you recheck by checking in and re-rating it. And I promise you, if you do this and you believe you can get to a 10, you can get to a 10. Does that mean it's a one and done forever, never have to go back to it? No, but that's part of the process. That's why you commit daily to work on yourself, right? So that is getting out the bad. We've talked a lot about putting in the good, about learning. And honestly, those two tools right there, if you did them, if you were to identify the negative thoughts, and if you were to identify those emotions that are not serving you, where in your body you're storing them, tap on them, release them, those two things can help your capacity increase exponentially. How do you quantify that? A lot. It's a lot. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too far out there. But the thing of it is, I can stand behind that because it works. I've seen it. I've used it on myself, on our children. Even Sunday, with one of our children, it's like, okay, do you want to go through this? You're ready to let go of it? Finally, yes. Got some good sleep, got some healing. And so because I know it works, I'm willing to be vulnerable and look silly and do this because I want to help you. Because I know all of us carry these things. We face some setbacks, trauma, negativity, and we don't have to carry that around forever. So 2 simple tools to be able to do that. All right, so back to our presentation here. And man, that was a bit, but if you got nothing else out of this, hopefully you can get that. Take out the trash, okay? Because when you do that, it makes room for creation, right? The thing about it always is when you release that, you have a flow of inspiration. And I am conscious that I used an absolute word, always. It's like, make note of it. Have your journal ready, because when you work through that and you dump out the trash, be ready to fill back in with good, because nature abhors a vacuum. Remember, there's more outweighed by negative thoughts. Don't just let chance fill back in because we know it's not going to be positive. Conscientiously fill back in. Be ready to receive some spiritual downloads, some creative juices, get those flowing. And that's the best way to be able to do that I've found. And tied in with that was connecting daily with our Creator. Prayer, studying the scriptures, going out in nature is part of that, but not just to connect with nature, it's to connect with our higher power, who I believe is God and our Heavenly Father. And as we do, that increases our capacity. Do something physical. A lot of times we are physically active on farms and ranches. The wintertime, make sure you stay physically active. I exercise 6 days a week in the wintertime, alternating between strength. And I do yoga. See, I told you I'm a little weird. But weird is good. I'm into weird because it works. It's a pause. It calms your mind. It helps you to be able to tap into an inner being and create peace that is tough to feel when we get started in our day. And then expand your mind, right? We've talked about body, mind, and spirit. And the mind part is just learn something. Okay. And the last one on increasing your capacity to steward is do the very best you can with what you've been given, and the promise is it will increase. Remember, parable of the stewards. They did the very best. They returned and they reported. Didn't matter if they were given 5 or 10 or 2 or 1. As long as they increased, as long as they did their part, their stewardships increased, right? They were given more. And really, that's the promise for each of us. So that is stewardship. That is stewardship. We haven't touched a lot on statesmanship. Statesmanship is the principle of doing what needs to be done in the world. That you have, maybe you don't feel like you have the capacity to do it, but you have the ability to do it, to see a need in the world and to take action and to see it through and to see it to success, even through the failure. What is that for you? What is this call of statesmanship for you? As you identify your core values, my values are faith, family, freedom, stewardship, and statesmanship. Sometimes I say leadership because people don't understand that word. Leadership and statesmanship are not synonymous, but they're closely related. So faith, family, freedom, stewardship, statesmanship, those are my 5 core values. When we clearly identify those, and I encourage you to do that, 1, 3, 5, probably not more than 5, but 5 things that you would live for, 5 things that you would die for, 5 things that you would dedicate time and money and energy into, that you would sacrifice for, you will find that it's not a sacrifice, right? So going to this camp this week, this youth camp that I'm going to be going to, it's promoting faith. We're encouraging family. The principles that we will be learning, while they're not seemingly directly related to freedom, these young men that are at this camp will experience a level of freedom as they come to know who they are. Stewardship, they're definitely learning to be stewards over their own bodies, and I am helping them with that. And leadership skills, they are gaining tremendous leadership skills. It's youth-led, and we just kind of stand back and help. So committing to do that, it seems like a sacrifice, but yet it's in alignment with my values, and so it's a yes. If I were to ask to go coach high school basketball, for one, I don't have the skills. For two, that's probably not very much in alignment with what my values are for me. For somebody else, they might be. So I'd have to say, no, I don't think I should do that. I'll say no to that so I can say yes to something else. And that's what knowing our values does. It gives us the power to say no so that we are open and ready to embrace that higher level of yes. So statesmanship, if that's a new term for you, ponder on it, think about it. Am I a statesman? What would it take for me to be a statesman? What are the things that maybe not only I can see, but maybe I'm the one who needs to take action on them? Right? Maybe other people can see the need in the world, but they don't have the conviction that I have. I wear this hat, the Operation Underground Railroad. I'm a fan of them. And Tim Ballard and his mission. He's a statesman. He sees the needs in the world with sex trafficking. He's dedicated his time, his skills, his resources, has built a community. And now he's helping to promote freedom for many young people and old people who are slaves, basically helping them to experience freedom. That's one example on a global level of somebody that's doing that. It doesn't need to be at that level. It could be in your own home. Maybe if you're a young person and you come home and you see the dishes aren't done, you don't wait to be told. You just jump in and you do them. That's statesmanship, right? Big or small, that's statesmanship. Do the very best that you can. Do the very best that you can, and you will increase. Okay, so that is the presentation. And at the end, I want to give you an invitation that if this is spoken to you, like if you're ready to take your stewardship and statesmanship to the next level, let us help you with Ag Steward. 2 ways that I want to offer to be of assistance and to be of help here today. 1 is by reading the book that we wrote, and 2, it's by working with us one-on-one. So when I started out on my journey in agriculture, regenerative agriculture wasn't even a term that I wasn't aware of. But I started to learn, and first it started with horsemanship and cattle and stockmanship. And then it was like, okay, we're more than just stockmen. Like, we really need to be grass farmers. So I was like, okay, like in my background photo here, let's take good care of this grass so that it can increase, so that we can increase our profitability. And so it's like, okay, let's be good grass farmers, right? And ranchers. Let's take good care of the grass. And then I learned that, hey, there's this other level underneath the soil. There's like this whole microbiology world living under here, which is full of life. And so I began to learn about compost and compost teas and increasing the brix levels, the sugars in our grasses, and increasing the health of our land and our animals and of the people and that connection. And then I evolved to like, wow, I've learned all these things and I see other people that are just starting out that could use help. So maybe I could teach, maybe I could share with them. And I wrote a book, and it started out to be a how-to rancher book, and it evolved into a how-to be book, a person book. And it incorporates, even though I didn't have those 5 principles, values clearly defined at the beginning when I started writing the book, it has all of those in there. And it's written in story form. And it's a story about my journey and the journey of those who have come to work on our ranch throughout the years. And it's all based on true things that have happened either to me or to those that we mentored. But it's able, because it's fictional, we're able to consolidate those stories into a shorter time frame, something that reads and flows. And so that's the book, and it's here, and it's going to be backwards, but Searching for a Home, Finding Grace, and it's by me and my friend Tony Malmberg, when he's been on the podcast before. Recently, about a little over a year ago, I think it was, he had a heart issue that came on sudden and had to be life flighted and this is his story told in part, at least on the podcast that he shared. And he said when they were loading him on the stretcher and into the helicopter, they said, we just have to be frank with you. Half the people don't make it to the hospital. Of the people that do survive to the hospital, only half of those people are going to make it through the surgery with the condition that you have. And so is there anything that you need to say or do? Because this is your chance. And he said that he had been partway through my book. He hadn't completed reading it, but he said that he felt the tremendous peace in his heart and in his mind because he knew who he was in God's eyes, and he knew who God was, and he knew that he trusted God and God trusted him. And he had an overwhelming sense of peace. And it turned out everything was okay. He's working again, regenerating land and teaching and living his mission. And so I wondered, did my book help save his life? I don't know. But the principles of having peace, those are the things that certainly did. Because if there had been a high level of stress and anxiety at that point, maybe that would have been something he couldn't cope with. It was told not even to raise his hand or head or anything as he was being life flighted, because he couldn't do any extra stress upon his body because it didn't have the capacity right then. So I know that this book can help you as you read it, apply its principles and learn from it. And likewise, if you're ready for level 2, it's to work with us one-on-one. And what does that look like? It looks like reaching out. If you haven't received, a lot of you that are watching this might be on our email list. If not, just jared@agsteward.fyi. Reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in coaching. And what does that look like? And so kind of walk through what the coaching program looks like. It's a 3-month commitment. And we work with you one-on-one. We start with where you're at when we get a clear vision of where you want to be. And we create a plan to be able to get there. And you think, well, I can't get there in 3 months. Maybe you won't be at $1 million direct marketing business in 3 months or whatever your goal is. I just throw that out there, but certainly you will be well down the path on the road to getting there. And that I can guarantee. If you show up and give 100% commitment, I'm 100% committed to helping you be successful. What is the power? Again, the power of a coach or a mentor is helping you get there faster, avoiding the roadblocks and the pitfalls along the way. So that's my invitation. Read the book. It's available on Amazon. If you just search for either my name, Jared E. Sorensen, or Searching for Home, Finding Grace, or reach out. We're going to be rolling out a new campaign. You don't need to wait for that, but it's going to be landing pages and leading to a discovery call. And that would be the first step, is just to jump on a call. There's no obligation to do that. And we just find out, okay, is this a good fit? Does it work? Does the cost work for you? Do you see the value in it? And are you a right fit for the program? Right? What are the people that are a right fit? They're the ones that are 100% committed. So far, we've worked strategically with people in the regen ag space, either transitioning to regenerative agriculture or just getting started. And that's our niche. Those are the people we want to work with. Ideally, it's a husband and wife that can work together and have a good working relationship already, and that we can leverage that to be able to create results. So those are the kind of people that we love to work with. If it sounds like you, and if this calls to you, and if you're not too weirded out by the things that we do, then reach out and we can help. So in closing, thank you for listening. Thank you for attending this, for watching this, whatever way you consume this. I appreciate that you've stuck through to the end. And that shows a high level of commitment. And that commitment is what is going to help you through. When we're committed, the universe moves in sync with us to be able to get the results faster, right? When we're wishy-washy and not committed, it's hard for anybody or anything else to get on board with us. Okay, stewardship, statesmanship. I believe that you are a steward. I believe that you can be a statesman. Both stewardship and statesmanship are conscious choices. I hope that you make that choice today, to take action on whatever it was that you were called to do, that you felt inspired to do here today. And I promise that as you do, I can say this, that you will experience a greater sense of peace and joy and security, knowing that you are doing your part to make this world a better place, to do what is within your power, to make the change, the positive change that you see in this world. So thank you for listening. My name is Jared Sorensen. Hope you stay tuned in to these webinars that we do twice a month, and to the other things that we do here with Ag Steward, the opportunities that we have, whether it's working with us one-on-one or just tuning into the free things that we have. Stay tuned in. Take care, everybody. God bless.